All right, I believe we are live. All right, welcome everybody. If you see the red dots in the title, it means we are live. So I'm here to take some questions, talk some guitars, and whatever else. So feel free to comment in the chat. I've got that ready to go. I've got some people here already. 30 people. Wow, far out. Davey, welcome. Thanks for joining early. I've got Quentin. How are you, mate? Todd, how are you, mate? You got a parcel on the way, so hang in there. It's definitely on the way. Daniel, how are you, mate? We've got Fret Level Midnight. Welcome. We've got Chuck. Howdy. All right, we are live. So if anyone has any questions, guitar related or YouTube related or whatever, feel free to let me know. I thought I'd jump on. I'm going to try and probably do a weekly live Q&A all month. I'm going to give that a shot. It's been a while since I've done that. Probably over a year, maybe longer. So I'm going to try and do a stream like this and maybe just, like a guitar one every other week or something like that as well. So we have a lot of people asking me if I can do more Q&As, and it's something that I'd like to do, but I had a couple of really crazy weeks, so I'm back. All right. Let's see who else is here. Ice Bike, how are you, mate? Another Aussie YouTuber in the sort of tech niche and outback sort of stuff. It's pretty cool. Welcome, mate. Thanks for joining in. We've got Florian, is that how you pronounce it? All right. Loving the posters behind you. Thanks, mate. I made all those myself. I got them from Google and had them printed at Officeworks here in Melbourne. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much, mate. I appreciate that. He says, hey, man, love your videos. Keep up the good work. Thanks for the super chat, mate. I do appreciate that. I had a good mix of stuff coming up. At least I hope so. So, yeah, we've got a couple of different items I'm going to be doing reviews for. I'm going to start doing a weekly Q&A for this month as well. I'm going to bring back the community hangouts as well. Probably, I'm going to say maybe next week or the week after. I'll just see how we go. I'm going to organize that. So if you want to be on the mailing list for any of this stuff, just email me at intheblues@outlook.com and I'll get back to you. I'll send you out an email as soon as I do any of these type of live streams. So feel free. All right. Hey, Shane, just had an awesome weekend of gigging. Exhausted, but here I am. That's awesome, Lincoln. Good stuff, man. Good to see some people playing out live. It's always the thing everybody should aspire to, I think. Even if you just jam around at home and you enjoy any particular style of music, go play at a blues jam, go play at an open mic night, get out there, have some fun. It's one of the most important things I think anyone can do. And gig if you can too, if you just do it for fun. All right, George, welcome, mate. We got I want my $2. That's it. Where do these usernames come from, guys? What's going on? Oh, maybe that's what that was in relation to. James Shackelford, thanks, mate. Have I ever tried playing bass guitar? I do play bass guitar. So all the intro tracks that I record, all those bass parts are me. So yeah, I do play. I play a lot of blues bass. I know a lot of the traditional patterns on bass for straight up blues. I'm not a great rock and roll bass player by any stretch of the imagination, but in terms of the blues feel, I got all the shuffles and all that down. I learned all the old Albert King bass lines and some of the T-Bone stuff as well. So I actually sat down and learnt maybe 6 or 7 different patterns, and then I can sort of merge them all together. So yeah, I play bass a lot. Every intro track you hear on my channel, that's me clunking around on my Ibanez sound gear. Very cool. It's a very cool instrument, no doubt about it. It also opens up guitar as well for you in the way you can approach it as well. So thanks for the super chat, James. I appreciate that, mate. You've done that a few times, mate. So yeah, thank you. Hey there, Shane. What do you think of Melbourne/Cranbourne-based guitarist James Ryan? He's a monster player. I don't know him. I've ran into him a couple of times, but we don't know each other or anything like that. But I've seen him play live with Greg Koch. Actually, this was years ago. He's a phenomenal player. He's really, really good. I think he was working for Fender for a number of years, and then I think he went over to I'm going to say maybe like Roland or Boss or something like that. He's usually sort of kicking around the guitar industry in some particular fashion. I think I've also seen him at the Melbourne Guitar Show from time to time too. I'm going to pop this chat out already because it's starting to fly. And I know I'm going to get a bit behind here, so let me pop this out and I'll scroll back up. I'm sure I've missed a few already. Let me go back. I'm going to actually... Sorry, guys. There we go. All right, so let me just go back up here. All right. What do you think about the hot plate on the Super Reverb from Brazil? If you're talking about those attenuators, I had one for a while, and I didn't... It was okay, but it wasn't great. There's something about the Super Reverb. It's got its sweet spot, which is a combination of volume and clean headroom. And then if you push it past that, it doesn't seem to do very well. And the same can be said when you run it into a power attenuator, because it loses its oomph. You're basically getting half of everything or less, depending on how you run it. So I've actually got one of those THD hot plates. Rick gave it to me years ago for the Super Reverb. That's what it was for, or a basement, or any of these sort of, or 4 ohm amps, maybe? Is that what it was? It was 4 ohm amp? But yeah, it was one of those things that I just couldn't get into the sound as much. That just didn't... it's good if you want to play at home, but, you know, there's better options than using a Super Reverb at your house. Just for the same money, just buy a small practice amp. No doubt about it. Have I tried the PV Transtube preamp pedals? I haven't. No, I'd love to. I'd absolutely love to. Doug says, hi, did you change the speaker in your DSL? I did. So I've changed it twice. Well, 3 times, I guess, now. So I had the stock speaker in there. I went over to the Texas Heat for 1 gig. I put it back to the stock speaker because I was on the side of the stage that doesn't really accommodate good sound. And I thought I wasn't liking it as much as the stock speaker. So I put the stock speaker back in. I swapped it out to a Eminence Tonka. And to be honest, it sounded good, but it made the amp too loud and it made it too heavy. So I put the stock speaker back in and then I went back to the Texas Heat. So I think that's 6 swaps. But the Texas Heat's done a few gigs. It's done a few jam nights. And the live clips I've been posting with that amp has been the Texas Heat speaker with no pedals. So it's just a great combination, hearing it on the proper side of the room. We call one side of the stage the black hole because sound does weird things. You can't really decipher what's going on. I should have tried it a second time before really buying the Tonka. But anyway, I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. The Tonka was just way too heavy, but great speaker. It made the amp just that little bit too loud as well. Hello from Eastern Canada. Welcome. Would you recommend the Bugera V5 Infinium over the Blues Junior from a value versus price? It depends, man. Like, if you're just playing at home, buy the Bugera. If you're playing at small gigs, get the Blues Junior. The Bugera is not loud enough. I've tried it at a really small gig, the Bugera on 5 watts. I had it cranked. I tried volume boost pedals, and I tried tube screamers, and I tried all kinds of pedals, and it just didn't get louder. It just got more saturated. So the Blues Juniors, I've spoken about this before. It's overkill for playing at home. I actually did a full thing about, like an article about the Blues Junior at home for home players, and that's at my website, guitarpedaldemos.com. It's free to read. You can go check that out. And I also spoke about the Bugera on that same website, and they're recent articles. You'll find them really quickly. So, yeah, check those out. Well, George from Florida, welcome, mate. Hey, Bigfoot in Germany. Loving that Junior. Spent all day yesterday playing it, literally all day. Awesome stuff, man. What do I suggest for a looper/drum machine combo? All right, so I've tried a couple of these kind of things. They're all got they're all a little bit fiddly. I kind of like I had a Boss RC30 for a while, but I feel like its functionality is it's overly complicated. You almost have to buy like a larger their external pedal to run with the RC30 to get the most out of it. It's it's very fiddly. You know, they make it look really easy in their product videos, but it isn't an easy pedal to use. One channel is easy to use. Once you start using the second one, it gets really, really confusing. And that's got some drum machines built in. There's also another one called I think it's called the Trio, where you can start playing some chords and then like a band will come in behind you, the drums and bass. That's pretty cool for really simple stuff, but I think it gets confused pretty easily as well. I tried one when I was in Sarasota in Florida at a guitar center, and I was underwhelmed by what it was doing. I felt, well, maybe not underwhelmed, maybe I just didn't have enough time to really test it properly either. They're one of those things. I think Mua also make one that I've actually done a video of it, but I can't recall the name. It's this silver pedal, and that did some pretty cool drum beats as well. I'd almost suggest maybe just jam to backing tracks unless you really need something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Dude, you're pixelated. Let me know if the picture quality's not right. I'm seeing good things on my side here, guys. So yeah, if something's not right, please let me know. But it should be all good, unless it's in. Unless it's not in HD. If it's not in HD, let us know, guys. I know next time I'll make some changes. Where I live, it's not possible to have a teacher. I've learnt all the chords and the basic minor, major pentatonic scales. Can play lead a bit, but want to improve. Any tips? Yeah, there's a million lick lessons on YouTube. Find what you like the sound of and learn those. Learning scales doesn't teach you how to play lead. It tells you where the notes are, but it doesn't really encourage you to play anything musical. That's just my opinion. Like running up and down scales isn't really something that's going to make you play licks. It never will. You got to kind of connect the dots. So learn licks before really just getting stuck. Learn where the notes are, but I always find when you learn when the notes are, it's really hard to get out of that habit. So learn licks. It's a really good thing. Chuck on some CDs that you enjoy and play along, and pick the bits that you can work out. Hey, Kenneth Russell, welcome, mate. How are you? Just go to guitarpedaldemos.com. Nice and simple, Michael. That's as easy as it gets. Or you can go to my homepage on YouTube, and there's a link there as well. A few people are saying the Trio Plus, cool. Thoughts on the Wampler Tumnus? Yeah, it's a good pedal. If you want the Klon thing, I think it's a solid pedal. But I always say, like, for way less money, you can get an American-made pedal called the Pony Boy. It's from a company called Shelly in Orange City, Florida. Really great pedal. Those guys make great stuff, all handmade, and it's just as good. So it just depends. If you really want the Wampler name on there, they're a quality pedal, no doubt about it. But yeah, for me, I've had both, and I don't know. If I was to buy one, I'd buy the Pony Boy. And that's not to take away from the quality of the Wampler or anything like that. Just price and tone for tone, it can't be beat. Stop, no names. Welcome, mate. Look good here, sparkling clean. All right, thanks. I'm streaming with my production camera, so not the full rig, but it's my main camera that I use to shoot the video, so hopefully it's all good. I like the Mua drum machine looper. That's the one I was thinking of. So that's actually a pretty good pedal for what it does. It loops, and you can chuck some different beats on it. It's nice and simple. It doesn't require really any fiddling around. You can just sort of turn it to a different groove. Tap tempo, I think the speed from memory as well. It's been a while since I've tried it, but that's a really great pedal just for a simple drum/looper. T-Tone says, hey Shane, how's it going? I was checking out the Artist Guitars website, and there's some awesome deals going on. Totally gassing for the Grunge Master. Grunge Masters are pretty sweet guitars. I think out of all the ones that they've sent me, that would probably be the most polished out of them all. Like, there's just nothing about it that needs to be sort of changed. It's just a nice basic guitar that sounds really good. All right, so Todd says the Trio Plus is an improved version that works much better than the original one. It had a drunk bass player in the original. That's funny. So yeah, I haven't tried the new one. I'd like to give it one of those going control conditions. You know, when you test stuff in shops, it doesn't always work well. Jamal, how are you, mate? Got Ed as well. How you doing? All right, Daryl says, I'm running a Traynor YCV50 Blue, I had one of those, into a cab with a V-type speaker. Sounds awesome, but lately I've been hearing intermittent static through the speaker. What's the most common cause of that? Your preamp tubes. I almost put money, that's exactly what it is. So turn the amp on, unplug your guitar, take it off standby, let it sit for a few minutes. Grab a pencil, not like a steel pen or anything, but just grab a pencil if you've got one, grey lead one or whatever. Just tap them. You'll generally hear one will sound either microphonic or a little bit weird when you tap it with a... Don't like hit it hard, but just lightly tap each of the 12 AX7s. When you find out which one it is, pull it out, put another one in. You'll be fine. You don't even really need to bias those amps, I'm pretty sure. Wow, how's this? Kenneth said he's just bought a Blues Junior on Craigslist that needed some solder work, or solder, as they say in the US. Only $120. That's awesome. That's got to be deal of the year, man. That is unreal. Well done. Steven says, where do I get all my left-handed guitars? My local guitar stores never have lefty stock. You've just got to look around. Most of the last few that I bought were from Sky Music in Melbourne. They got a wall with probably the most the most I'm aware of in Melbourne, at least anyway. There may be some shops with more lefties in Australia, but I'm unaware of them right now. So, yeah, Sky Music have lots. That's where I got the Flying V. That's where I also got the PRS. I got a couple of those SX ones from Melbourne. I don't know. I just go, what's it called? Melbourne Music Centre. So I just look around. I don't limit myself to one shop when it comes to buying stuff. And, you know, thanks to the YouTube thing, I'm in a position where companies occasionally send stuff down also, which is pretty cool. So the Harley Bentons obviously were sent out from them. And, you know, this is a guitar I've just been picking up a bit again lately. This is the Pure Salem Mendiola, which I really like this thing. Mini humbucker in the bridge, Tally neck pickup, single coil. Just a really great guitar. So that'll be getting used more on videos coming up. But yeah, I just look around, you know. That's just one of those things. Just find out which shops have the lefties, and sometimes you're lucky enough to find somebody who works in a shop who's left-handed, and then generally they'll have some because they know how hard it is. But most of the shops always, it doesn't matter where you go, they've always got either the Squire entry-level lefty or like a Mexican standard Strat or Tally, and that's it. So you got to find the shops that have the bigger range. Smack Daddy says, is it okay if I finish this beer while watching? Absolutely, mate. I'm going to break out the big guns today as well. Here we go. Ready? 1.25 litres of pure goodness. I hit the gym earlier, so I always like to be caffeinated after that. John, welcome, mate. He says, loves the Grunge Master. I was nearly going to buy yours. How to put a humbucker on it. That's cool. Bigfoot in Germany says, I have the original Trio, drunk bass player for sure. That's funny. Wow, that's great. T-Tone says they have the Tweed Tone 20R for $399. That's great. That's insane. That's worth buying. We got Stephen. He says, hello from Mississippi, the home of the blues. That's cool. Welcome, mate. Johnny says he just ordered a Gibson Les Paul special tribute. Nice work, man. Awesome stuff. I got to tell you that Les Paul Jr. DC that I tried, the one with the one pickup job, that's a great guitar. Just it's still going around in my head a little bit, which is disturbing. But yeah, I'm definitely selling off a few of mine at the moment. I've made a decision to pretty much get rid of most of the inexpensive guitars that I've got in the collection and keep more of the ones that I know I'm going to be using more. I'm going to keep a few of the inexpensive ones for the channel, mostly the Harley Bensons. I really like what they do. I think they're great guitars. Have I played any Chapmans? I've only picked one of those up off the wall. It was a lefty, and this was in the early days of their guitars. I think the first series, and it was so heavy. Like, I just remember going, why is this Tele so heavy? But I haven't played one properly. Now, I'll give them another shot at one point in time, but they're not really high on my list of sort of guitars to, you know, there's other things I'd rather play or own. Hey, Drew's Drum Tracks. Welcome, mate. He says, sometimes you have a problem going to Macca's. Absolutely. Usually, for those who don't know, usually when we go jamming on a Sunday night, it's usually followed by like a midnight McDonald's for whatever reason. That's the way we roll. I thought I'd grow out of that at some point in my life, but it hasn't happened yet. Bigfoot says he's got a couple of Chapman guitars decent for $450. Cool. Like I said, man, I've only seen one left-handed guitar. I've seen them at the Melbourne Guitar Show. That was the only other place that I've really seen them on the wall, but I didn't pick any of them up at that point. But you know what? Maybe I'll revisit them. If I know one shop in Melbourne's got them, so maybe I'll head down there and take a look. Michael says he got the double cutaway with the blue satin with the P90s on order. Cool. Have I seen any of the new Gibsons? Had to ask. Welcome, Dylan. Yeah, I've been looking at some of the videos that they've been putting out with the dude from, what's the guy's name? From Norm's Guitars. I've forgotten the guy's name. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, I've had a look at them. They look like Les Pauls and all of that kind of stuff. They look like guitars that they've been making for years. But you know what? They'll be good, because if the ones that I've got, that particular 2019 one's as good as it is, I'm sure these next year's ones or later this year, whenever they're coming out, will be just as good or better. Got a cheap as chips Gretsch G5421. That's from Mike. Gretsch makes some good stuff. All right. I recently made a decision to sell all of my name brand guitars, i.e. Fender, Gibson, etc. My buddy is a small batch builder and makes some custom guitars for musicians in the Memphis area. Awesome stuff. Well, feel free to put a name of his guitar brand in the chat there. That'd be cool. I'd like to know what that is. Yeah, go for it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting custom built guitars, or, you know, the guys that just make a handful a year, all that kind of stuff. Like my Little Crow guitars are like that. They only make a handful of those every year, and they're great guitars. Porkchop says, hey Shane, have you ever used Dr. Rick's Sir Coco Boost pedal? If so, any opinions? You know, Rick's actually got that on his pedal board again. So I don't know what happened. It was off for years. Now it's back on there. So he loves it. Yeah, it's a really good boost pedal. I think I either was a part of one of the videos we did, or he let me borrow it. I can't remember. But if you go back like 7 or 8 years, there's a video of us, or maybe not quite that long ago. Yeah, it would be. It'd be about 7 years ago, I'm tipping, where we were testing all of his pedals out, and that was one of them. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a better boost pedal than others. I haven't had enough experience with it, but he loves it. So, yeah. I think if you just... there we go. Thanks, Todd. If you can, give it a go. Like that's the best way to tell. And if you go somewhere that has it, bring your amp and bring your other effects pedals. Make sure it stacks well. But like I said, he loves that pedal. It's back on his board. I was shocked to see it. I was like, you still got that? And he's like, yeah, it was, holding up the car or under the wheel of the car or something. So what other YouTube guitarists would you most like to jam with? I got to jam with Kafir, which was pretty awesome. That was good fun. I got to have a quick jam with the Tone King as well, which was good. Who else? And Steve from Boston as well. That was cool. I went to his place when I was over there one year. Now, probably, you know what? I'm going to probably say Robert Baker. He'd run rings around me, but if we were to do a blues, I reckon we'd both be having a good time. And then once he starts shredding, I'd just start laughing. But yeah, he'd be great. I'd love to really jam with that guy. I reckon that'd be a lot of fun. He's got some great blues chops, as well as every style chops as well. But he would be high on the list of people I'd want to jam with. For me, it works it's more about like how nice these guys are as well. And he seems like a lovely dude. So, and speak of the devil. There we go. I didn't actually see he was in here. Welcome, Rob. Have I ever played a PV Classic 20 at all? I've tried one once at a guitar shop. It was pretty good. 20 watts for me is not often loud enough. It's one of those things where it's loud at home, but it's not usually loud enough when you go out and play. I always make that mistake of 15 to 20 watt amps usually aren't loud enough. And there's only a couple of exceptions to that rule. Some of the hand-wired ones are definitely loud enough. There's a couple of anomalies out there, like that Tweed Tone 20 is a 20-watt amp, but it feels like a 30. It's really quite loud. So, yeah, in terms of... It's got pretty much the PV sound, but I would go for a 30-watt if you're playing live. But if you got your heart set on it, they're good amps. I think Lando Landon from Lando 27 Music, he's got one of those, and he loves it. I think he might have just sold it, actually. I'm not too sure. But yeah, they're decent amps. There's nothing wrong with them. All right, so Lost Smoke says, hey there, any of the Harley Bentons worth it? The least expensive ones worth it? Where do they cut corners? Look, they're as good as any other guitar of that price point or better. I actually prefer the feel of the TE52 over the Classic Vibe. It's maybe not as pretty looking as the Squire Classic Vibe, but it feels better in the hand. It actually feels like a higher quality guitar. The neck has a more robust sort of feel. I think the only corners that have been cut are the expenses in the workman to pay the workers, basically. I think that's that's the corners that are cut. They're not cut in terms of their pickups are great. I haven't got any problems with the way any of them play, and I'm not one to sort of promote something that I don't like either. I've made that clear over the last 12 years that if something sucks, I make mention of it. And if there's a problem with something, I make mention of it as well. But they're great. They're easily as good as the Classic Vibes, or even better in some occasions. I really feel like the TE52's up there feel-wise in the neck with something similar to like a Baja Telecaster. And a lot of people will go, what? I've picked up both, and they both have a very similar feel. They got that sort of dry satin kind of neck. The other things where I think they'd probably save some money is the way they finish the guitars on the body. They're like a sort of like this less expensive finish, basically. But it doesn't matter. It means it's indestructible, basically, as well. So inexpensive today, and I covered this on a podcast a while ago, doesn't mean cheap and nasty. It's two different things. There's a lot of cheap and nasty guitars out there, but Harley Benton aren't one of them. And before I actually had a chance to play them, I assumed the worst in them as well. And I was like, these are actually really good. Tomorrow, actually, speak of the devil, I'm doing a video between my PRS SE and the Harley Benton CST24. So that'll be up tomorrow. And you can see if there's any appreciable difference in tone. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how they both play. And yeah, you can use that as some sort of reference as well. Because I think that's the thing. A lot of people go, oh, it's a beautiful guitar for the price, but how does it compare to something that's similar? So good question. Thank you. All right. Jamal says, I just messaged Gibson on Facebook. They said lefties will be made in smaller quantities later on in the year. That's awesome. Cool. Guitar Hack, welcome, mate. What do I think of the vanilla Pepsi Max? Yeah, I don't like it as much. It's okay, but I think I'd take the cherry one over, or the raspberry or whatever they're calling it now, over the vanilla one. Oh, we got a super chat here. Let me just go down. Doug, thanks, man. Appreciate that. If you have any questions, mate, feel free to let me know. Thank you. It's strange to see a super chat come in without a question or a comment, so I'll keep an eye out for you there, mate. If you forgot to add one in. Well, I'll tell you what, Robert. If I make it over there, mate, once I get my knee sorted out, I'll look you up and we'll have a jam. It'll be fun. Just go easy on me, mate. I might have to get you to play left-handed just to balance out the skill level. Have I stolen any licks from Jack? I'm never sure how to pronounce that name properly for blues. I've stolen a couple of jazz licks for blues, but none of his. I think there's this great series of videos on YouTube. I don't even know if they're supposed to be on there, but it's like 50 jazz licks or something, and I went through a few of those. If you go through that series of videos, you'll hear a couple of my licks and hybrid versions of those. That I've taken from those videos and play a little differently. But yeah, I don't go out of my way to steal a lot of jazz licks. There was a time where I tried to learn a few, and what was great about it was it really opened up the fretboard a little bit more. And this is what I was saying earlier about someone who was asking about scales and how to learn more. Learn licks. It'll teach you way more about getting outside of the scale you've just learned. I think it's a huge important thing. Those guys that don't really learn licks only play scales, and it just doesn't sound the same. And it's all right if you're learning, right? Everyone starts like that, but I made it a point early on, and I fluked it, I think, in a way, was to learn a lot of the licks that I like the sound of, as opposed to just learning all the positions properly, because a lot of the time you'll play notes that aren't in those scales. You go, how come that works? Even in blues, man, there's so many great... Listen to T-Bone Walker and tell me if he's playing straight pentatonics. Even Clapton plays a lot of passing notes that aren't technically part of that scale. So, yeah. Or B.B. King, playing all the major stuff, throwing that stuff in. There's all these bends that are sort of like half-step bends that are out, but they sound great. Oh, scrolled. Oh, all right. I just realized I need to move the chat down here. Smack Daddy says, I got a PV Bandit, but I'm not gig worthy anyway. I got a lot to learn still. Just wanted the PV Classic 20 for home, maybe recordings. Well, you know what? I think from what I remember about that amp, I think it actually has some sort of power attenuator on there, which means you can drop it down. If it does that, you should be fine. The thing is, for home, it depends on your living situation. If you're in a house and there's no one around you or close proximity, then you should be fine, right? But 20-watt valve amps are pretty loud, so just keep that in mind. It also comes down to the speaker and what you use. You might want to get like an isolation cabinet, but the best thing in the world is the 2 Notes Torpedo Live. If you get one of those and you can use it with any 8-ohm amplifier, you'll get great recordings like every time. I've had a what were they called? The Randall isolation cabinet. And the 2 Notes Torpedo kills it for a couple of reasons. It's not as big. It sounds better. Just everything about having the 2 Notes Torpedo is a better experience than having an isolation box. I've actually owned 2 isolation boxes. I bought one based on what was Stevie Snacks back in the old days. Anthony from Texas Blues Alley did a video of this thing called the Axe Track, which was a custom speaker in a box about this big, had a microphone built into it as well. And I bought that when I think I was in San Francisco at the time. And it was one of those things where his review summed it up. You got to do a lot of post-production to make it sound good. It just doesn't sound great straight away. And that was one of those learning curves. But back then, stuff like the 2 notes that wasn't around. So yeah, I can highly recommend it. If you're going to do any type of electric guitar recording and you've got an amplifier where you can just unplug the speaker and plug in something like the 2 notes or an isolation box, go for the 2 notes. It's a much better investment. See if you can pick one up on the used market. James, Pepsi Max. This is my my poison of choice. Johnny G says, smash that like button. Thanks, man. Yeah, if you're enjoying the live stream, guys, please give it a thumbs up. We've got 100 and something people here already, which is fantastic. We're going to go for just on an hour today, so we'll wrap it up in about 25 minutes. Hey, Lando27 Music, how are you, mate? We were just talking about the PV Classic 20 head, which I think you had. One of the guys was asking about it before. I have the Marshall DSL CR, thinking about a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe to tap into the Fender world. Is there anything else you would suggest over that's loud enough with a band that's also pedal friendly? No, that's a pretty safe option. I would also say try a Blues Deluxe, because I got one of those and they're blisteringly loud. If you get a Blues Deluxe, try and find one that doesn't have the stock Fender Eminence speaker in there. If it's got any other speaker in there, buy it. But yeah, the Blues Deluxe are a great amplifier, but they're let down initially, in my opinion, by that stock speaker. They sound okay if you're just noodling around, but in a gig, they're either too toppy or they're too bass heavy. So I've had both. I've had 2 Hot Rod Deluxe amps, and I've had 2, what are they called? Fender Blues Deluxe amps. And they are a different sounding amp. I think the Blues Deluxe has a bit more poke on the mids, maybe in the mix, whereas the Hot Rod is a smoother, clean channel. It's got more niceness. It records well. Not to say that the Blues Deluxe doesn't, but it's a different sort of sound. That would be the 2 that I would go for if I was... Yeah, you can't really go wrong with either. The good thing about the Hot Rod Deluxe is they make so many different models with different speakers. My other suggestion would be make sure you get the version 4. They got a drive channel you can actually use without any pedals. It's the first time they've ever got it right. Unless you had one of the other amps up at about 9. But yeah, just make sure... I think the speaker makes that a huge tonal upgrade. I tell you what, being that I own the Marshall TSL and the Blues Deluxe, I've been using the Marshall so much more live. It's just such a great amp. There'll be times where I want to use all my pedals and I want to go through the Fender, but at the moment, I'm loving the Marshall. John says, how long did I tell you about my SX and Artist guitars before you came on board? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just assume, I'd seen so many SX guitars at cash converters, and usually when you see a lot of guitars like that at cash converters and that are missing pieces and they're banged up, you think these are all going to be crap. But they're not. They're actually pretty good. Oh, Kevin, you're a brave man. He says he tried peach Coke, no sugar. That's just not good. Next, I'll probably release like a mango one, which will be even worse. Thanks, Sebastian. Thanks for hanging out, mate. I appreciate that. Oh, let me scroll back up. Hang on, where is it? Okay. So James says, Bad Horse or Mandragora? Depends what sound you like, man. These are those questions. It's like, well, what do you prefer? If you're going to be playing a bit more rhythm guitar, don't get the Bad Horse. If you want a good lead boost pedal, go for the Bad Horse. I think that would be the way to go. Something Different says, just discovered Johnny Winter yesterday, another good blues singer and player. Yeah, he was great. I think he died not long ago, actually. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Phobos, is that it? Like the moon around Mars or whatever. Hey mate, I'm new at guitar. I'm going to get a Marshall valve state 8240 amp. It's a stereo amplifier. How can I do a gig with it? I mean, am I supposed to mic it up and send it to the PA? So I don't know that particular amp. So it sounds to me like it might be a 40 watt amp possibly. A 40 watt solid state amp might not be loud enough to gig with. So you might... The good thing about a lot of the Marshall valve state amps is on the back they've got a direct line out straight to a PA system. It's a simulated mic output basically. They tap it straight off some circuit in there, and it's to stop you from needing a microphone in front of your amp. So you can run a cable directly out of the amp, usually straight into the PA system that way, or you can take a SM57 or any of these other microphones, a Rode M3 or whatever, just run the microphone from in front of the amplifier to the PA system. One thing I would recommend, probably don't mic dead center of the cone, so it's got the small part of the speaker in the middle, and then it's got the big cone around it. Mic somewhere in the middle. That's a good safe tip. You don't want that sound of the top end killing everybody in the room. But test it without it. I mean, a lot of people make the mistake of not turning their amps up loud enough before they run it through the PA. So get your sound, try to get the best sound you can in the room before you use a microphone. If you're not loud enough, then you can either use the direct out of the amplifier at the back, or you can run a microphone in front of it. Matthias, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining in. All right, so David says the Sonzera 20. I think next week I've got a video coming up of the Sonzera 50. That's a strange old amp, the 50 watt one. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It sounded better in the room than it sounded on the recording, but it sounded strange in the room. The thing about the PRS amps, with the exception of their John Mayer $15,000 one, is that all the distortion channel, to my ear at least, when you're in the room, sounds a lot more like an asymmetrical fuzz, which means like it has not a smooth tone to it. It has more of a sort of fuzz overtone, and it doesn't come out of the amp exactly when the note is played. It almost feels like it trails it, and that's one of these things that's really hard to explain to someone. But when you play a distortion channel on any other amp, you're hearing like a blend between the note you're playing and the overdrive or distortion. The PRS are different. It feels like it lags. So you're hearing the clarity of the note, but then it's got this weird sort of trail behind it. And Rick and I and Ryan actually were testing out a whole lot of these. I'm listening to it going, there's something weird about this. And then we worked out that it felt like the note, the fuzz or the overdrive, put that in quotations, was actually after the note. I don't know if anyone's tried a Sonzera 50, let us know what you think. But I've tried a number of PRS amps, and I hear that I can't not hear it anymore. It's really odd, but brutally loud. Like 50 watt head, man, far out. That clean tone is just something else. What compression pedals do I recommend? You know what? I don't really use compression a whole lot. Again, there's a couple of companies that make like decent compressor pedals at different price points. It just sort of depends on how much you want to spend. Like the best one I've ever used is the Cali 76. That's in a league of its own. That thing is just, that's awesome. So if you can afford to get that, and you'll be done. It's got studio grade compressor in there and all that. And preamp. It's awesome. In terms of like less expensive stuff, Shelly make one as well called the Compy. It's an American-made pedal. I think they're around $100, which is pretty awesome. Then you've got companies like Joyo and Kalen and all that as well, which also make some pretty good ones as well. But Yeah, the Cali 76 is the best one I've tried. I haven't tried them all, but out of all the ones that I can think of off the top of my head right now, that would definitely be the best one. In practice, Joyo, American Sound, or real Fender? Hey, there's nothing wrong with those American Sound pedals. If you can plug them into your sound card and just have the sound coming back through your speakers or something like that, go for it. They're really good. I used one of those for years. I actually did an album with those Joyo pedals. We used the AC tone and the American Sound one, and they're fantastic. They're almost indistinguishable from an actual amplifier. And I did a test on that ages ago, and so many people preferred the sound of the Joyo American Sound with a reverb pedal over the deluxe reverb. I had them dialed in almost identically, and there was next to no difference. I remember when Rick came over, we were tracking some stuff for an album, and he had his Clapton amps. We had all his stuff. We put him in the cupboard. We ran all these different mics, and then we tried the Joyo American Sound, and he just looked at me and goes, well, we made a decision. It was so much easier to get a great tone. So, ain't nothing wrong with those. JCM 800, great amp as well. That was my first real time playing it in controlled conditions at the house, and I had a lot of time with that JCM 800, absolutely. Wow, 5 years ago he passed away. Far out. Man, time flies, huh? Sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat here. If I missed your question, feel free to type in it again. David says the gain channels on the Sonzeras aren't great, but the clean channel is really good. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it as well. To me, it was just... they position themselves in a weird spot when an amp company makes a great clean channel, and then you've already got so many great companies making great clean channel amps, and the distortion channel is lackluster. I think companies should try and put more emphasis on a great distortion channel. Maybe they thought they made a good one. I don't know, but I found, especially with the Sonzera 50, winding the gain up past about 10 o'clock was, ridiculous. And I don't mind throwing on a bit of overdrive. I've got a DSL with an ultra gain channel, but that particular amp, I just couldn't get into it. Have you ever tried the Fender Champion 50-watt combo? I don't know if I have. I did a whole lot of Fender Champion amps a while back. There is a new one that's like the 50XL, I think it's called. I've tried that in the shop, and the way I felt about it was great little home amp, not loud enough to take out and jam with, even though it's 50 watts. The clean channel has 25% less volume than the drive channel. So just keep that in mind. If you're really looking for a loud, clean channel amp, that's not it. Smack Daddy says, did I ever run the Joyo American Sound through the preamp, or through the effects loop? I didn't know. For me, excuse me. For me, it was more of a direct recording tool. You can use it any way you like. There's no right or wrong. You could run it through the effects loop, change the vibe of the amp completely. You could run it as an overdrive pedal. So many people bought that pedal based on my videos and all of those pedals. And what I noticed is a lot of people were either running it through the effects loop or just using it as a dirt pedal. So yeah, you can definitely do that, no problems. But for what I was using it for, I didn't really need to do that at all. I don't even know if I even tried doing that actually. All right, we've got about 10 minutes left, guys, and then if anyone has any last-minute questions, let us know. We're going to try and do one of these it's Monday here, so for the rest of the month. So I'll be on around the same time, maybe an hour earlier, but I'll schedule up the next one after this so everyone's aware of what time that's on. How are the clean sounds on a Fender 59 Basement reissue? Have a chance to buy one at a great price, but won't be able to crank it. Yeah, see, this is the problem with those amps. They're too loud. Rick and I got to crank one of those up. the cleans are nice, but they're also it's also a very bright amplifier. And part of what's great about a valve amp that's bright is the louder you turn it up, you kind of start to get less top end because of the whole compression thing. At least that's my experience with these valve amps. Like, you know, once you start, especially a basement, it's like, oh, blizzard of nails. But then it gets to a point where it's like a rock and roll machine. So if it's going to be used at home, it's probably overkill. You might want to look at a THD hot plate or something like that, or any of these sort of attenuators. But you got to make sure it's like a 4 ohm one, I'm pretty sure. But just double check that. Have I tried the DSL 20 combo? I have, absolutely. I've used that a few times on this channel and another one as well. It's a good amp. Like, it's got a good little clean channel, and it only has one of its small limitations is the only fact that it's got the ultra gain drive channel and doesn't have the crunch channel is my favorite. But the ultra gain channel is kind of fun too. So if you're into, the good thing about that amp, I guess, is 20 watts clean. You can run it with any pedals you like. It's got a higher gain drive channel, which is cool. You can also switch it down to 10 watts, which is also a good thing, especially if you're playing at home. I think when I did the video of it here, I ran it on 10 watts and it sounded great. JJ, welcome, mate. Thanks for stopping by. This is his first time watching the live show. V-Man says the Joyo American Sound has the speaker emulation built in, right? It does. So for those who don't know anything about that pedal, it's a clone, as is everything, unfortunately, of the Tech 21 Blonde, which actually has a few more options on there. If you can afford to get the Tech 21, go for it. You can turn the the speaker or cab sim on and off, whereas you can't do that on the Joyo. It's always on, which is fine, but yeah, just be aware of that as well. Roger says, I just got my first tally because of one of your reviews and small hands. Thanks. He says, thank you for your expertise, and it fits my right hand like it's custom made. That's great, man. Congrats. That's awesome. Awesome stuff. Let us know which one you got too, by the way. That's great. Ha! These are recently I get these type of questions a lot, and not the one about the tally, but this next one. What's the best pedal for? And these kind of questions are really open-ended. So rather than go into this, go to guitarpedaldemos.com. I did a post exactly about your question. What's the best fuzz pedal for a Fender Blackface amp? And I listed 30 pedals. Overdrive, distortion, and fuzzes. In my opinion, which ones work best for Fender Twin or any of those kind of amps. So I'm not going to get into that. It's all personal choice. But yeah, check that post out. It'll be a huge help. And this is why I have that website. I write a lot of stuff I see come through now. I write on there, and then you can check that out. HT1 is nice and loud for home use. I think I've tried that amp actually. What's the best Mexican Strat? They're all pretty good, man. I don't think you're going to have any problems with almost any of them. I think they've actually gotten better as time's gone on as well. So that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. There might be people who disagree with that. But, as the process gets refined, they're making better and better guitars. What can I tell you? So, I think you can walk into any shop and get a good, playable, and great-sounding Mexican Strat, or get it on the second-hand market cheap. That's what's great about those guitars. Have I ever tried the PV Windsor Studio? I haven't tried that amp before. That's one that I don't think I've actually seen in person either. That doesn't sound like one I've heard of it, but I haven't actually seen it anywhere. Smack Daddy says, I got a Donna Blues Drive. Is the Boss Blues Driver worth bothering with when I have the Donna already? If the Donna Blues Drive is a copy of that, then you're basically just buying the same thing. Yeah. So, you know what? I can't recall. I've demoed so many pedals, and I can't remember if the Donna Blues Drive is a copy of that or not. But if it is, you'd be doubling up. Robert says, thank you for the old review of the Classic Vibe Strat 60s. I bought one used that has Mighty Mites, and it's OMG. This thing is amazing. I heard the new ones aren't as good. I'm happy with it. Thanks. Hey, no worries, man. They're great guitars as well. The Classic Vibe 60s Strats sound great straight off the shelf. And they look good too. I think that's a really cool thing. They got a really thin neck on them too, so if you like that, you'll definitely dig it. Yeah, a lot of Bigfoot says, "Hey, see Shane, it's all your fault. We keep buying guitars." Well, I'm not going to take full responsibility for that. I leave that up to everybody's own. What's it called? Self-control, and some of these other guys who are great, who have great channels on YouTube as well. I'm sure they'd be influencing other people as well. So. Just move that. Something different. I like the Marshall code on some settings, but I find many of the modeling amps too fiddly to use. I totally agree. I don't think any one of these amps is all bad. I think they've got a lot of good sounds in them. You just got to try to sort of figure it out. When I first saw the Fender Mustang at one of the product nights, I went to a Fender product show once, and I saw it, and I went, no way in hell I'll ever buy one of those things. This was years and years ago, and then I finally got to play one, and I started fiddling around with it. I had some time with it, and I was like, oh, I can get this to sound pretty much like my amp, except it's way lighter. And then I thought, no, there's no way I want to buy it. So I went back, I tried it again, I ended up buying it. But absolutely, any of these modeling amps have way too many options for most people, and the downside of that is you're always trying to find sounds rather than just playing. So I'd almost suggest, if you're learning guitar, just get something that you don't fiddle with. Just you can plug in and play, and use whatever it gives you to get a sound. That'll also be a lot less. It'll be a more productive way of learning. I never had that stuff when I was learning like all the blues licks. Actually, it's funny because even going back, even I still do this from time to time now. I know if I'm struggling on guitar, like if I'm not feeling like I'm flowing very well, I don't even plug in electric guitars to the amps. I just play it acoustically, right? And I play all my chops, without even a clean tone, just, unplugged. And that's a really great thing for developing your chops. And then if you plug back into an amp, it's easy. So, but yeah, in terms of the whole digital modeling amp thing, I just think anything that requires your phone to any full extent isn't a good thing. It just... you just want to be able to use the amp and dial everything in without having to use your phone either. So I've actually got a really good practice amp video coming up. I think it's one of the best I've tried. It's an 8-inch speaker. I'm not going to give that away, but it's coming up pretty soon. And you don't need to hook it up to anything. And I think that's what will get you playing more than diving through menus. I was just laughing at John. Have a contest and give away one of your cheaper guitars. I'd like to be able to do that, mate, but unfortunately it just... I don't know. People, I think, assume that, we make thousands and thousands of dollars every week on YouTube or whatever it is, and it's just not the case. Unfortunately, like, how I pay my bills is moving things on. When it comes to pedals, I've done plenty of pedal giveaways, and also being able to send a pedal out isn't a huge expense. If I'm going to send a guitar overseas, it's probably going to cost me $300. So I unfortunately I can't do that. Then I have to lock it down to people only in Australia, and then you just don't want to sort of do that. So I don't want to isolate the rest of my viewership. So, maybe there's something in there that I could do with it. I actually gave away a guitar recently to a little kid who wanted to play. Her mum's like, oh, yeah, she wants to learn. And I was like, here's a guitar for you, so go for it. But, yeah, that's easy. That means, like, it's gone. I don't have to worry about shipping it out and all that kind of stuff. All right. We've got about a minute left, so I'll just take up one more quick question. Hang on, what have we got? Jamal says he plays unplugged 99% of the time. That's cool. It's a good way to play. It really helps your attack. A lot of guys I see with pretty average attack on the strings, the way they dig in and play. That's why acoustic players, usually if they go to acoustic or from acoustic to electric guitars, they've got really great attack on their note. They can really dig in because they've been forced to play like that. It's a pretty interesting thing. So definitely play unplugged on an electric guitar. It definitely helps. All right, Doug says he just picked up a Blues Cube Artist 80 watts. Pretty good. Yeah, they're solid amps, man. Nothing wrong with those at all. I put them on par kind of with the PV Bandit. I've said that before. Like, they're very similar amps in terms of, you can take them out, you can play them live, you can do all that kind of stuff. And you get a decent array of sounds out of them. But if you're a straight up blues player, the Blues Cubes are definitely a good option. Knights of the Hobby Table says, hey Shane, thanks for what you do. I appreciate that, mate. And that wraps up the live chat. I appreciate everybody hanging out today. Just a quick 1 hour live stream. We'll probably try one of these again next week around the same time, or maybe an hour earlier. I was planning on starting a little bit earlier than what I did today, but it just unfortunately didn't work out. I had to go do some stuff. But yeah, I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, feel free to leave them in the chat once it just archives. And if you're watching this on the playback and you don't see any red dots in the title, you are not watching the live stream. But it's live as of me saying this. All right, guys, have a good day. Have a good night. And yeah, I'll catch you all pretty soon. Also, for those who joined late, I just wanted to make mention, I'm probably going to do a community hangout again at some point. It's been ages, but over the last few weeks, I've had a lot of requests to bring those back as well. So, yeah, stay tuned for those. If you want notifications about those, you can even email me to intheblues@outlook.com, and I'll shoot you an email. That's easy to do. All right, guys, rock on, and I will catch you soon. Thanks to everybody for hanging out. Todd Flowers, and you've definitely got a package in the mail, mate. I appreciate your support there. So hang tight. It is on its way as of today. So, all right, guys, take care, and I will catch you all soon.